William Frothy, round five review time. Daggy and Barney back with you as well. We're just real chipper at the moment, both of us, but we're going to soldier on and hopefully provide at least an hour or so of consumable audio to some level or another. How are you, David?
Yeah, apologies for the voice. I've had the sniffles and a cough and a sore throat for the last 4 or 5 days, but we soldier on. Didn't affect me too much, just the sinuses and the throat. So,
Mm.
other than that, yeah, pretty good. Life's going pretty well for me at the moment, which is nice to be able to
Yeah.
say. And, yeah, obviously on the back of that, we got to watch a pretty decent weekend of footy. There wasn't a whole heap of team performances that you'd probably brag about too much, but there was some very good individual performances out of the weekend.
I agree with that. Even the sort of blowout scores and half blowout scores, they didn't feel like blowout games. There was blowout 10 minutes here and there, but
Yeah.
uh, as I've
And it
said,
was all sort of off the back of one or two players rather than a team
oh
really
yeah, yeah.
dominating the other side.
As I've said in the past, sometimes when you just are in a game for a long time and then they put on sort of, either gas out or they put on 20 in the space of 10 minutes, I'm a little bit forgiving of that. And I'm not just saying it because it happened to the Tigers, but I'm a little bit forgiving of the end score in some of these games. But by and large,
Broncos were pretty dominant, but other than that, yeah.
hmm, there were, but entertaining enough round as it has been all year, actually. We need to be careful with what we wish for. I've asked for rugby league cows for 5 years now, and now we're starting to get it.
Haven't we?
I don't know how good it tastes at times, but anyway, we will talk about all of that soon.
Just got to pick the right week to just pick upsets, eh? Tipping's just gone
Exactly.
out the window.
Well, yeah, last week at what was it, 4 or 5, and then this week we didn't really get one at all. But well, I suppose you could count the Cowboys did, and you'd probably argue the early game rounds did, but early weekend games did, but it sort of leveled out enough. Um, Injuries, Zach Lomax, 6 to 8 weeks, broken foot. That sort of came out of the blue, especially after his Golden Point heroics. Not ideal for Parramatta. And the other big ones, Newcastle, they've lost Hetherington, Saifidi, Schiller, Cogger, Elliott, all out of this week. And you throw that on top of missing Dylan Lucas and co already. They're at the bottom of the barrel, but I'll get to perhaps tipping the Tigers as my bet of the weekend in the preview instead. Walker, Humphreys, and Ravalawa all injured for South, so the big talking points there. Tino's out for a week. There's not many other suspension issues, and not much else going on around the league, really. Barney, anything caught your eye?
Yeah, no, not overly. The the Dragons Parramatta match for mine, there was the two fullbacks were just extraordinary, trading blows back and forth in that game. That was something that really did catch my eye. But as I mentioned earlier, there wasn't really any teams that sort of got dominated all across the field. It was just somebody doing something brilliant in a 5 or 10 minute stretch. So
I'd agree with that. Do you want to start with that Dragons game, given it was maybe the most interesting, or do you want to? Should we just go through like we always do in chronological order?
you're the boss.
Oh, I've clicked back now. Let's start with the Raiders and Sharks on Thursday. After all that, which it might not have been a classic game, but had a classic finish, much to Barnes' detriment. But what did you make of this one?
Yeah, I thought the teams matched up pretty well. It wasn't realistically a brilliant match to watch, but it was very competitive. Both teams sort of went out of their way not to win the match realistically, and the last 10 minutes of it was one team not trying to win and one team going out of their way to do everything that they could to score points, and they got the points in the last 30 seconds of the match. So
Yeah.
you could probably say the Sharks realistically didn't. The
Do
whole
you
second
reckon as soon
half,
as
they
that
just
seemed
went out of their way.
yeah, do you reckon Sharks just thought it was in the bag once Hudson Young went to the bin?
It's like the second time this year that they haven't scored points with a player off the field.
Yeah.
I'm almost certain they did that against 2 weeks ago as well, against whoever it was back then. But recall's not the greatest. But yeah, that's twice now that they haven't scored points. They just seem to go through the motions. And I think was it the Cowboys, and then they actually scored quite a few points after they came back on after that 10-minute period. But the Sharks are just playing really simple, boring footy at the moment. They're staying close to most of the sides that they're playing against, which is, could be a positive down the road if that attack approves. But it's difficult to say that it's going to, because you haven't really seen any signs of it. And as a supporter, it's getting pretty hard to throw your full support behind them at the moment, because they're just floating in and out of games. And while the effort's there, there's nothing. There's no creativity. There's no set plays. There's no sort of will to score points at the moment.
Tell me if I'm imagining this, but it's starting to feel a lot like they, and I know Fitzgibbon's been very much, hey, the halves are a tag team or whatever, however he described it. That they take turns, or what he used some phrase like that. But it feels like there's games where it's all right for them to think each other's taking turns, but neither of them want to have a turn. And it's like they'll just float through these periods where there is no dominant half.
100%. Yeah.
And whereas, but then when they're up or when they put 40 on teams, it's usually when Trindle just goes, well, I'm going to show off tonight.
Well, they haven't done it this
How,
year, and
no, but last year, probably their biggest wins were Trindle driving, even with Atkinson. It's probably when Nico was out, actually, more than this. But it seems like, right, neither, it's almost like Fitzgibbon, and maybe he's too nice or whatever it is, I don't know, has said, oh, you're both in control, whereas at times they just need one of them to just grab the rudder.
Well, that's kind of what I want to get into, to be honest. That they lack the killer instinct.
Yeah.
They have done for a few years. You can see it just in the way that in general play, you'll see the Sharks will make a tackle and they'll be just laying on the tackle, looking at the referee, going, "Okay, tell me when to get off." Whereas the other team's putting the player on the ground into positions where it's making them harder to play the ball. They're wrestling, they're putting pressure on the head, the neck, the ankles, the knees, all that kind of shit. And you don't see the Sharks there's very little aggression coming out of the Cronulla side. You see it out of Ramian occasionally, but he has times where he doesn't do it. Ronaldo does it when they're up on top of other
There's
teams,
very
but
really controlled aggression. There's brain fart aggression, like from
it's McGuinness does it, but he's not
yeah,
quite big enough to impose himself on people.
and
Tapahua did it last week. He made a massive difference when he came on against the Raiders. He was actually really trucking the ball through the middle of the field. But other than that, Nikora's got moments where he does it, and then there's other times where he's the nicest bloke in the world. But that forward pack just doesn't have that aggression. They don't get in the wrestle. They don't get down and dirty like most other forward packs do.
and it's funny mentioning, and even with Fanua Blake coming in, and yes, he's there's nothing wrong with the footy he's playing. He's in
He's
stats,
a skill-based player. He's
but
all about,
yeah,
offloads and footwork and
yeah. But in my head, he was going to lift those rest of those guys up a power, but it's almost like he's just coming and become a shark, a very good
like
shark.
they charge onto the ball hard, and they do
Yeah,
hit the line with
and I've said this,
ball in hand.
their back five run harder than any other back five in the comp.
The aggression in defence is nowhere near where it needs to be, and they're starting to get picked off with those back five as well,
Yeah,
because they know when Ramian takes one and then Mulatalo takes one, they know it's either going to be Hiroti, Iro for the next one. Kennedy's going to jump in off the back of the next one. They either go four forwards or they go four outside backs. And in this game, when they rolled through the forwards, they didn't do it till late in the game, but they started to make an impression when they were actually using their forwards instead of using their outside backs.
mm.
They need to be doing the one outside back and then have forwards rolling, or even a 1-2 punch with the outside backs. But they need to get their forwards more involved, I think, and a bit more aggression in the middle of the field. But
And generally, but you find some of those great forward packs have a good half just literally grabbing them by the collar and saying, right, you're going to have the next hit up, get in, where are you, really giving her a rev up. And it just doesn't feel like it happens with
yeah, well, the bloke in the number seven's the nicest bloke in the league, and
yeah, bless
everybody
him.
loves him, and he has his emotional moments and all the rest of it. But obviously, it's not leading to where they need to be. Simple errors at the start of the game from Trindle and Ramian really hurt them. The Raiders come out, put a good set on, but then like the Sharks kept them to 20 meters on the next set, and then they give away a set reset. Like they give away six again on the last tackle. The Raiders go back down there, couple of bad one-on-one misses, and they score the first points of the game. Like it's just that again, constant simple errors and letting the other team back into the game. The Hiroti try was good, nice positioning, good footwork to get on the outside of his player and defend. He's probably someone who's languished in reserve grade longer than he should have. You would think that, he could be picked up as someone centre somewhere, but at the moment he's there because Iro's not. The Raiders had two tries taken off them as well in this game. You had the obstruction call with the Weeks one early on. Um, probably fair enough, but yeah, like, then the Sharks get the ball back, right? There's the kick, a 6-all bomb to the corner. There's a knock on from the Sharks that doesn't get called. They get the ball back, and on the second tackle, they fuck it up. They're
Yeah.
just a plain drop the ball and give it back to the Raiders. Um, as you said, 10 minutes off the field for Hudson Young. He couldn't resist the second biggest chin in the comp and just had to give it a little tap. And he's give McGuinness a tap on the chin and got himself 10 minutes under the new rules, which didn't even get a week suspension, got a fine. Really shouldn't have probably happened, but
Yeah.
it was, that was obviously the setting of what they wanted to happen.
Even that faded out over the weekend. By Sunday, it was off the table. Like it.
Yeah, back end of Saturday, and
It just, yeah. Well, by the time we hit the Tigers game, no one. No, there was one in the Tigers, wasn't there? And then there's no one on the Sunday.
yeah.
It was 8 in the first four, and there were now points made. We'll just all move on.
There was some really brilliant individual efforts from Hudson Young and Brenton Nakora in this game. Obviously, just to score points. The Nakora triple grubber was probably the highlight of the point scoring opportunities in this match.
Yeah, a couple of pinpoint kicks from Fogarty in fairness, but yeah.
Oh, mate, absolutely. He was probably one of the differences again. Because there was times where they were on the back foot and the Sharks were pinning them down in their own end, and he just turned it around with one of those big kicks. There was a period of about 15 minutes in the second half where Nico had every kick. And
Yeah.
I'm sitting there going, what the fuck is Nico doing kicking the ball? Like, Trindle kicks it another 20 metres deeper. We're on our own 40-metre line, and they're getting the ball back on their 30. Give it to fucking Trindle, and they can have it on their goal line.
Yeah.
That shit makes a big difference in a game of footy. And the fact that, like, at the very end of the game, the one thing that stood out for me in this game is you see when Hudson Young goes through on that last play, right? He brushes down past the centre, turns the ball back inside, and then Hazelton attempts to tackle on the bloke who gets the ball back off Hudson Young. The ball then gets spun across the field, kicked into the other side of the corner. The winger and the centre from the Sharks were there. Who was the next bloke that was there?
I'm just looking at it now.
It was fucking Hazelton. And there was nobody else that
And
chased
then
from
the
the other side
referee,
of the
no one, yeah,
field.
there's no one else in picture.
And not another person chased from the other side of the field. And that just like it fucking that tells you what happened. They'd given up on the game. They thought it was dead, and they did it for the whole second half.
I hope, and like I said, the feeling I get is Craig Fitzgibbon's probably a very nice man as well. But that's just a simple thing. You should just be showing that play at the Monday review session, saying where the fuck are the
100%.
rest of you?
And I don't know if anyone else out there would have picked it up or fucking seen it, but it fucking stuck in my head
Especially
right as soon as it happened, and I lost my shit. I
especially because
wasn't screaming and yelling. That's not why my voice is fucked.
no,
But internally, I was boiling,
but especially because
fucking
there were
boiling.
4 or 5 times that play should have been shut down, even after like the second the ball bounced that little bit too high, I thought it's done. But then
Brayley should have been there. McGuinness should
there
have
were
been there.
three,
Kennedy should have
yeah,
been
the
there.
three
It should have
Raiders were the
been
closest
3, 4
players.
other
Yeah,
people there.
it should have been done. Well, Young should have been tackled twice in that play
And
anyway.
Chris is meant to be on the other side of the field,
Yeah,
and
literally,
he's the guy who takes the ball.
yeah, it just
And
effort. Just
there's 4 Raiders
1%
there, and
wondering why.
there's one bloke that chased across.
Yeah,
And Kennedy who sort of jogged across the back line. But
yeah.
you got to give it to Canberra. Like, they dominated field possession in the second half. They were really strong through the forwards. Tapane had a brilliant game, as did Hudson Young.
Hudson Young was
Starling
like good enough to be picked in an Origin team. I think the way he's going, but
has been for the last couple of weeks.
yeah.
Um,
Sorry, keep going.
I mentioned already, like the Sharks are getting picked off because they just go back, 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 or forward, forward, forward. They know it's just one out, hit up, bullshit. And the fact that they're still close enough to most of the teams at the moment, it's not the worst thing in the world. They've got to build on something, but it really needs to start happening soon. I thought this would have been a statement game for the Sharks.
Well, I was about to
Down
say,
in Canberra
you
to
said it,
dominate Canberra down there, and it didn't happen.
you said it all year. This is fine. This is fine. Wait till they start playing football. But now it's starting to feel like this is where they're happy being fine. You
Yeah,
know what
but even if they're going to be fine there, like they
I mean?
knew
But
that
like, you know, so
the
you're
competition
very
was
much
going to be
play
through
your
the middle.
sets, blah blah blah. Yeah, like don't
Mm.
worry, we'll come around 10, we'll be scoring points. But it doesn't feel like there's another later the Sharks right now.
Because they were always still scoring points beforehand,
Hmm,
and that's gone at the moment. Unless Kennedy has a good game where he starts linking up with the outside backs, the ball's not getting out there the way it should.
no,
It's slow, it's flat. The attack line's too deep. It's getting past, and you're already 10 meters behind the defensive line. So, as long all they have to do is come up straight. They don't have to come up quick. Just come up straight, and there's no you run out of options. You end up passing into a corner in the wings, and nothing happens.
hmm. There has to be another later that at some point.
Well, they're not taking the defensive line on either. The ball players are not going into the line. They're just catching and passing.
Yeah.
So they're not going to create much doing that.
Touch on the well, you mentioned the Raiders forwards, but and Fogarty. Anyone else you want to give a wrap to there before we move on? And where are Raiders at?
Weeks had a much better week
Hmm.
this week.
Yeah, yeah, he was due on.
He had a few touches early that were a bit, suspect, but he seemed to really settle down towards the back end of the game and was pretty safe under the high ball by the end of it. Injected himself a couple of times through the middle of the field, which made a bit of a difference. Playing very direct through the middle off support
And a bit
plays.
more ball playing too. He threw a couple of nice passes along the way as well.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, I just really thought they won it with their aggression through the middle of the field and being able to really, because they went out of their way to slow down Cronulla's ruck, and Cronulla didn't. They were just happy to make a tackle and get off as quick as they. It seemed like they were trying to get off the tackle as quick as they possibly
Mm.
could because they were scared to death of giving away a penalty.
Yeah. Um, Anything else? We might move on. Actually, I'm just apart from the finish, there's not much else I can add to this.
What a brilliant way to finish a game.
Yeah.
Like the ball goes from one side of the field. Hudson Young just went, fuck you. I'm running through 3 years and getting an offload and then shift and a kick. Some pretty big balls on Savage to put that kick in because all it took was for one person to be in the right place and that it just shuts down.
Yeah.
And then he probably gets fucking roasted and dropped for the next week. But bounce of the ball and all the rest of it. But yeah, brilliant finish. I thought Hudson Young was the best player on the
I
field.
agree.
Quite easily. I thought Tapane was the second, and I give it to Nakora. But if you're going to take out any Sharks bias, you'd put in Fogarty. But I thought Nakora was brilliant as well. So
Give it to Nakora. I agree with Fogarty. Did you see Fanua Blake got the 6 points for Dally M?
as they look at he ran 200 meters, but yeah.
Yes.
He did put in a lot of efforts, but none of them made the game that much different.
No, especially, and I've long past given up caring about Dally M's. Obviously, it's the reason we have Daggy M awards, but
Mhm.
this year more than ever it reeks of, except for Brandy, who has been on record. He will come out and say why he at least will, because it's supposed to be a secret, but he puts his name to it.
He
Generally,
does.
hear him
Yeah.
on Vossi's show. Or he's in Vossi's show. Uh, it reeks of
No, it's
people.
Brandy and Vossi's show. All
Yes,
right.
exactly. Uh, but it reeks a lot of people just looking at stats and
100%.
or watching replay clips and going, "Oh, yes, Jai Gray made two try savers there."
How does Hudson Young's input not impact the game 5 times more than what Fanua Blake did?
Yeah, and that's even
Fanua Blake scored a try and popped an offload for a try assist, then yeah, give him the fucking 6 points, even in a losing team. But he didn't.
I
He
agree.
made a whole heap of hit ups and a few offloads, and he did break a lot of tackles, but he didn't get into the backfield and set up points or.
Agree. But anyway, I thought that was an interesting talking point. But Yeah, I go with Nicaragua, but geez, Fogarty had a very, very good game.
Just would have liked to see him if he put a try in off the back of his passing, you'd
Yeah,
probably give him.
you don't need to justify it any further, but it's fine. I agree with you. 22-18. That sounds like the end of one of my arguments with the missus. But anyway, 22-18 Cowboys over the Panthers, which made it four straight losses for the defending premiers at Combank in front of only 10,000 people. And the exciting thing about that is I reckon we're only about 3 weeks away from them starting to do 2-for-1 packages, and I can take the kids to the footy for cheap for the first time in a long time.
So you
But
got to go to Parramatta, but
yeah, I can live with that. It's fine. It's only a little bit further than the end of my street, but what do we yeah, take us through this one while I plot the stats.
uh, I didn't. No stats. I told you. No stats, mate.
And I was just pulling them
No
in front of me,
stats.
in front of my face on this.
Oh, both teams come out with good energy. I thought. I think the start of just about every game this weekend, both teams came out really aggressive and really pumped up to try and get stuck into each other. And the first sort of 10, 15 minutes was a good back and forth most of the time. Raiders made a couple of errors. They both teams made a couple of errors. Sorry, Cowboys and Penrith both made a couple of errors early. I thought Drinkwater was doing some good stuff early to break down the defenses of Penrith, like really firing shots on both sides of the field, which came back to pay dividends later on. Couldn't quite crack it at the start, but was really trying to work out which way guys have tendencies of, because like that's sort of the feeling out process at the start. When you do get to the edges, you're looking whether they shift out, whether they shift in, whether they want to jam, and that really worked out for them later in the game. They were really singing the ball across the field too. I thought that the speed of the pass from the Cowboys was really good at the start of the game. It's a fantastic offload off Purdue to set up the first try for Tuolangi. Purdue was in everything in this game. He looks lethal. When that kid is on, he's going to be one of the superstars in 3 or 4 years from now. Like
Yeah, well,
he's going to just tear games apart.
I know there's one. Was there at least two other times we made a line break, and the one in the
Yeah,
first half where I think McLean got dragged him down, and then there was one the other way as well where like it could have been another couple of try hits if everything
and like
went his way.
he doesn't look like the biggest bloke in the world. I'm sure he's probably 6'1" and fucking close
Hmm.
to 100
He's got
kilos,
legs
but
on him, like
he's
he.
got footwork and that fend that he's got. He's just able to push like some of the better defenders off, and yeah, he's got that really good sort of 5 or 10 meters acceleration, and looks like he's got pretty good speed all over, to be honest. But he's one for the future, that's for sure. Um, what happened here? Cleary. Uh, this is the difference between Cleary and just about every other half in the game. Like the way he draws defenders in, that you saw with the try where he went to the left and he's dummied on the inside twice. So he's already committed three defenders. One's on him and the two guys that he's dummied to that he's going to drop off on the inside. Then there's a double pump. So he's got a short ball to the outside and he draws another defender. So he's fucking taken four defenders out and then throwing a cutout to cut out another one, and then they go and score down an edge. Like he's committed 4 and 5 defenders in one play just by a couple of dummies and a head fake and a really good ball out to the edge. Like he is just so different the way that he sets up in his attack, and then he's get the curling grubber
So
that
that's the first
Andrew
time we've
Johns
seen
used
it,
to do
and
all the time.
he used to roll it out all the time. We hadn't seen it for ages.
Oh, I'm sure you'll see it plenty of times during the
Yeah,
year, but we haven't seen
threw
it for
away
a little
last year.
while.
Yeah,
Yeah.
uh, and he's done pretty well there. I think he's run over 150 meters as well.
He doesn't mind the contact. He
Went in and
actually seems to
got to it.
enjoy it. But
Uh, Laurie had an okay game with a few errors in there, as he tends to do.
mm,
Looking,
he's one of those energy guys. He like when he's on, it really lifts everyone. But even if he's not, he still gets guys to come with him, and you know he drops a couple here and there. But that happens. Penrith lose a player for 10 minutes.
Let me check here. Yes, Tango. But that was right at the end. And nothing happening one, which well, it was a sin bin, but it was very much nothing in that one.
Okay. Drinkwater set up a nice uh, try to Vialia where he charged into the line and got the offload, drew in sort of two defenders and then offloaded to put Vialia away, and that was 12 all. Casey McLean is a funny one. He seems to be really, really bad or fucking awesome. Like he had the try saver in this game where he come across into the corner and saved a try, but then he also was running down the edge and he could have just given the ball to Jenkins and tried to go on his own. And Penrith probably win if he passes that thing to Jenkins in the corner,
Yeah.
but he decided not to for whatever reason.
Well, you mentioned Jenkins. He's got something about him.
Oh,
He is a very good player. I was just looking at this. I would be once Biz is back. I would be leaving Alameda on a wing and maybe trying to have an extended run with Jenkins in the centres. Uh, if Biz are
who
back,
have they had out on that wing?
the other McLean. Or there's someone else in between. There's
Oh
another kid
no, he
in
got
between.
injured, didn't he?
Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, two O's the other winger. There was they started with maybe Jesse and no Biz didn't play round one. Sorry, keep going. I'll look at it. Now it's going to me.
um, Yo got in the middle again and started playing off the back of Cleary as well, just serving up short balls for people to punch into holes and cause all sorts of problems in and around the ruck. Drinky again. You look at the stats and it says he didn't really have an impact in this game, but he set up two tries. Like the grubber for Purdue and the charge into the line for the offload to get Vialia into the game. I thought he was much better in this game and had a much bigger impact than he has done for a while. And Purdue and Tuolangi saved the game as well with a try-saving tackle in the corner there. Lindsay Smith again was very good, as was Papali.
I'll mention Tuolangi because he's very good at doing nothing in lots of for a bloke that plays for Australia and Queensland. He's very good at doing nothing, but he had a good game. I thought he was actually
Yeah, last three games he's really
yeah
started to get back to what he was. He's starting to take those dummy half runs, even the front row
yeah.
runs that somebody else should be taking, but he gets in there and
Because for a lot
does
of
it.
last year he was
But
doing sweet fuck all, but
yeah,
he's been good this year. So I have been critical, so I will mention that. Did you get to catch my? But keep going.
yep. I thought Laurie and Jenkins were quite good, but Cleary was Penrith's best player by a mile. McIntyre and Nanai had some decent touches of the ball, more so in attack than defence. They got caught out once or twice, both of them, realistically. Clifford again had a very good game, just getting them around the field, doing what they need to do. Like um, you've seen that old mate Chad's now been dropped out of the
Mhm.
the Roosters team. They probably should have done that halfway through last year for the Cowboys, realistically, and how their season ended might have been different. But yeah, you mentioned Talangi, very good, and Purdue. I thought Purdue was the man of the match. I thought the impact that he had out on that edge and the way that he was able to, you know, cause problems against that defense. I thought he was the man of the match, followed by Cleary. In a beaten side, was very close to the best player on the field, and then Drinkwater for one.
Yeah, let's run with that. Garner was the bloke I was thinking of that played centre in the first round. Obviously, he's still on the side. And the only others before we move on is this. I think there's no point sugarcoating it. This felt like a clash between 9 and 10. Like
Yep.
this wasn't a. This was just a game
Mm-hmm.
that could have gone either way. Yeah, they had the best player on the field was the halfback for Penrith, but the rest of them, neither teams are going to make the eight. Like, don't worry about Penrith making the four; they won't make the eight. Penrith need to now win. They're 1 from 5. They'd have to win.
16 of the next,
What gets into the eight?
what,
28 points or something?
30 points,
Yeah,
probably.
26. Let's say 26 generously if everyone else sucks as well. They're going to have to win.
You got
Yeah,
two buys in there, so that gets them 6 points. So they're going to
have to
have to
win nine
win
games.
10 at least.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so 10 games out of the remaining
21,
16, and they're going to lose Edwards,
19.
2 Yo, Cleary for probably 6 weeks in the middle.
Definitely Yo and Cleary. I'm not sure about Edwards. We'll see how he comes back,
Well, that's a
obviously,
good
from his
question.
injury. But
I'm just going, yeah, and Bizza probably makes New South Wales side, I suggest. So,
you would think so.
uh, and maybe Lindsay Smith. So, depending where they're at. So, like, they're red
You
hot
could take another 3 games out of that. So that's 10 out of the next probably 14 games that they're going to need to win.
exactly. So, and this isn't talking about the top four. This is top eight. Obviously, everyone else could, like, we could be in a world where maybe
22
everyone
15 or
finishes on
something.
20, 26 and everyone just beats each other. Maybe we are, but
I
they've got
think we
a
are.
lot of work. Yeah. But when that happens, it's a big job for this team to win 10.
The biggest issue that I've seen so far has been their defensive edges.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think Edwards makes a massive difference with that. And I think you'll see that coming back this week with Talangi at 6 and Edwards at fullback. I think their defense will be much better
I
with
actually agree with
Edwards
that
coming
in
back.
that when you have such a well-oiled machine as Penrith and Yo plugs in where he does, Cleary plugs in where he does, Edwards is plugged in where he has, but Edwards organises the defensive line.
You
You
now
can't,
got a running threat, which you didn't have with Cole,
yeah.
realistically.
But even that
As
defensive,
well.
being able to have people in the right spot, he's had that job for years now, and you can't just
Oh,
replace.
100%. Like
It's not a fun.
he doesn't stop talking. He's constantly screaming at
Yeah,
people, like in attack or defense. Like it's just, I think their edges will be much better this week, but we'll see.
I hope so for them. 22-14, the Bunnies with a last minute Latrell cutout ball over the Chooks in another sort of same standard game, I would have thought. And Latrell didn't by any means cover himself with glory for a lot of this game, but he was there when it counted. And was the difference ultimately? What did you
He
take away?
was the difference when it mattered. For mine, this is almost the nail in the coffin for the Roosters.
Hmm. Well, they're in the
Their
same boat as what I just said about Penrith.
their forwards were fantastic. Like you look at Crichton, Vanu White, Sia Wong, Teddy was pretty damn good as well in this game. And like off the back of that, with both halves missing like they had one player on the bench for fucking 40 something minutes. Like if the Roosters can't put the Rabbits away in this game, that really throws up a whole heap of questions going forward.
Well, there's a pretty obvious handbrake, and he's gone now. So there's going to have to be some proof in the pudding this week with any changes in
But
terms of.
like Sia Wong played a game that could have won it off his own bat. Like the offloads he was throwing, the way he was busting through tackles and getting the ball to the outside players, like it just there was no real response when the Roosters did get on the front foot. The only person getting involved was Teddy.
Yeah,
There was nobody. Oh, and Angus, but Angus for whatever reason, I don't know what's going on in Robbo's mind at the moment. But he has basically been told, from what I can see on the field, you play in a 10-meter corridor in this field, and that's it. You don't go anywhere else.
yeah,
You don't go in, take the tough hit ups. You don't go in and try to support forwards. You don't throw offloads. You just run down that train tracks, and that's it. And it's same with Sharks. They're just trying to go through the motions, and they're getting beaten, but they're getting beaten pretty comfortably by a team with 15 players.
yeah. In that, he was pretty good in those train tracks, by the way. Ted,
He was awesome in those train tracks, but
and I said it last
that
week.
bloke should be floating around fucking everywhere doing
Mm.
whatever the fuck he wants.
I wonder if that. I don't know. Obviously, there's more to the oversimplifying it. I've my line on him is he's missing Sam Walker, but because he used to be very good at sniffing around behind, or Sam Walker would go looking for him, maybe more to the point, uh, and maybe bring the game to him at some stages, which hasn't been happening. But um, it's a good point you raised because there is no creativity in any of this forward pack really, and they're better than that.
Really, the only time they've looked really good is when Sandon Smith shows and goes, and he did it at the start of this game, and they got points early. But he's sloppy defensively, and he's getting he's getting spotted up every single week and just worked into the ground. Like Totola ran a really good line for the first try. Hubner, he looks like a serious player, that
Yeah.
kid. Wayne obviously only took one off the Dolphins, but he picked the right one, one of the right ones. I'm sure he would have loved to take Max with him as well, but he, imagine if they'd got Max Plath and Hubner down there. But
Well, and Ewan, he's back this week.
yeah, yeah, Ewan's back.
But you're right. But it is interesting you mentioned that because from memory, it was Humphreys and Hubner were the two that Bennett said what like before the season said these blokes are proper players, and
Yeah,
everyone even I think we even just went who, but uh, when all the hype was about Dodd or this or that, but he probably has some idea about football. That bloke.
a little bit. Roosters had big chunks of the ball early, and just kept. It's been the story of the whole year. They just make errors when they try to get the ball to the edges or they try to get creative. They make mistakes, so that probably is part of the reason why they're going back into their shell and not being that creative. But like it was one line break to Souths compared to three for the Roosters at half time, and you would have thought the scoreline would have been a whole heap different than what it was. Um, both teams seemed to just sort of be hanging on, trying to do their best in the first half because nobody was really creating that much against the opposition defence. But um, the Trell no try, like it could have been a real comfortable win if Teddy doesn't get in underneath him and somehow manage to hold Latrell up early. Was it
Yeah,
early
it
in
was
the
early
second
on.
half?
No, it was early in the first half.
It was early in the first half.
You mean the one where he just ran from dummy half?
Yeah,
Yeah, because
but like he crashes over most weeks, and somehow
yeah,
Teddy got
When-
himself
and
in
that's what.
underneath the ball.
And when that happened, I thought I was so excited because well, Latrell's back. He's just starting to bully. His opposition number. I thought away we go, and Teddy did. I don't know, it's a matter of inches, but Teddy did a great job, as you said, holding him up because that if they get a steam on there and Latrell just really starts going searching, this was before the injuries. I think they do really steal momentum at that stage.
Mm. Yeah, well, you lose your halfback after 5 minutes, and then you lose your 5'8" after 40 minutes, and then Rava hops off a couple of minutes later. Like you're in a 15-man rotation for over half an hour. Like I don't know how the Roosters weren't able to just power through them. Like, don't you just go, okay, we're just gonna bash them for the next 15 minutes and we'll win?
Yeah, it
Didn't didn't happen.
it. But again, for whatever reason, all this season, there's been games where we've sat here and go, why didn't they do this?
Mm.
Apparently last week, for example. But I don't know. Maybe I don't know if it's overcomplicating, undercomplicating.
I thought it was going to happen when Watson and Teddy you sort of broke them open on both edges, and then Billy Smith went in to score. And then it just went back to another 10 minutes of you can have the ball, we can have the ball, and we'll just go through the motions. Like
Yeah. I actually don't know what their attacking structure is apart from for weeks it was get the ball to Marky Mark and hope he just came up with something. And
Libby back this week, so
yeah, which
something.
helps. Or it's Teddy um, trying to getting back to what he usually does. He's trying to just do it himself. I think he had 10 some stupid stat, 10 tackle busts here and
Yeah.
up the line breaks, but it's like they're playing with handbrakes. Both of those halves aren't.
But a lot of Teddy's line breaks, a tackle bus where he bounces off a tackle and goes backwards,
That's true.
and then has to
And then
turn
spins around and
and
does the
spin
same.
around and
Yeah,
come back in back into the line. Like there's tackle bus and then there's tackle bus.
that's true.
You know what I mean? Um, the yeah footwork. Sia Wong was brilliant as I mentioned earlier. Offloads, footwork, just pushing people off. He was the one who set up the young try over in the corner. But yeah, three hamstrings should rule you out of winning a game of
I would have thought
football.
so. Yeah, it's just effort.
um,
They're turning up for Wayne. God, that's
yeah,
wanky and cliche, but that's they've been doing. They're now what 4 from 5,
yep.
and that's all they've been doing.
The trails pass. Yeah, from where he passed it to where Tass took it and they scored in the corner, it was a metre and a half, 2 metres forward. But look at the rotation of the ball and the way it came out of the hands. The hands came from in front to behind, which is really the only definition that they work on. But even the rotation of the ball, it's spinning backwards
Yeah.
towards the player. Yeah, it might have fucking, inertia, all the rest of it. I'm not going to get into it. I'm not a physicist and all the rest of it. But I thought that it was, I don't think either way, if it gets called forward, you probably get less blowback than what you did for it getting called backwards. But I thought it was flat.
Through that whole play, at no point did I think that was a forward pass. Well, I shouldn't say no point, but it's the same flat ball we see forever, and like it's not a forward pass per se. I didn't treat it.
Like I said, you don't get the rotation on the ball. The way that was spinning
Yeah,
at a 45 angle, like up and to the left, that doesn't happen if your hands are going forward.
he threw that ball backwards. It simply,
At best, you get the ball coming out flat if your hands are
yeah.
going forward, but you would get it spinning in the opposite direction if it was thrown
It actually
forward out of the hands.
makes me a little bit scared if they ever did bring in that sort of VAR style line or whatever they want to do, because it's so many. They'll be stopping passes every set now. Some
100%.
it'd just be
Yeah.
bing. The whole game will stop again and again and again. And I just I thought it was a great pass. I didn't whinge.
I thought it was a brilliant pass too.
I
Yeah.
thought the bitching about it after the well, it didn't happen till the Monday. They had to talk about something, I suppose. But let's move on. There was much worse. There was two worse in the Tigers games. You could find three worse in every game if you went and looked for it.
Yeah, just anyone that's
Every
really
Harry Grant
questioning it,
fucking
just
dummy
go
up.
back and have a look at the rotation on the ball
Yeah,
and think about how, if your hands were going forward, how would the ball come out with that kind of rotation?
yeah.
But yeah, as I mentioned, I thought the forwards were fantastic. White, Butcher, and Crichton were all very good for the Roosters, and Teddy was awesome. Even though he wasn't able to sort of break it down as much as he would have hoped. Totola, Keon, Kulamatangi were good. Hubner, Gray, and Mitchell were awesome. Um, Gray again, like 200 odd running meters, saved tries again, was involved in balls being put into the right positions. I thought he was man of the match.
I'm
I
not
gave
gonna.
Gray the three. I gave Sia Wong two, and then I gave Latrell Mitchell the one.
Yep. Okay. Well, let's go with that. I'm not in a combative mood today. Hubner, Hubner honorary mention down there.
Absolutely, and Tedesco.
Yeah. And then 23-22 went to Golden Point for the Saturday afternoon game, and both former clubmen starred for their ex clubs. Gutho, tremendous as he has been all year for the Dragons, and Lomax kicking the winning field goal in the 83rd minute. And we probably saw the arrival of Isaiah Rongi with a bit better opportunity in this game as well, Brian.
Yeah, absolutely. Fuck, the Dragons can throw away a game of footy.
Well, that's now four. They seriously should be undefeated this year.
What were they? 20-8,
Yeah,
like with 20 minutes to go,
yeah.
and in control on the front foot, bashing down the front door of Parramatta. Got to give credit to Dylan Brown. I thought he had a fantastic game in this one. He's copped a lot of probably unwarranted criticism at different times. He has been trying on the back of a pack that's just been getting demolished week in and week out. Could have done more, but yeah, in this game, I thought he was all over the place. Put himself in positions that he probably didn't want to be in to create opportunities for the blokes on the outside. And yeah, I thought Parramatta were on top early, and they're in, but they took the two. It was interesting. I know you want to put the 2 points on early, but they got that penalty. I thought that was a real opportunity for them to snatch a lead and go on with that momentum. But they took the two and got back into the grind. Bell Holmes had a pretty good game. There obviously that offload to start the scoring. You know, he offloaded, and then Gutho just weaves back through the middle and opens up the guts of the Parramatta defence, which has happened time and time again this year. But he did it with ease. Like barely had a hand laid on him the way that he carved back through the middle and scored the opening try for Parramatta, for the Dragons against Parramatta. Um, it was, yeah, 8-2. There's a penalty in there, but then Iongi sort of stepped. He's got a really good right to left pass. That cut out is as good as most when he gets in the right position and put Josh Adokar away there to score.
Which is what sort of we got excited about in trial games.
Yeah,
That pass.
absolutely. And Dylan Brown actually got him into more positions in this game, which I was talking about earlier, to be able to ball play and get the ball to the edges. Yeah, 20 to 8 with 25 minutes to go. How do you not shut that out?
Dumb shit stuff. Not
They
complete.
did make
It
a lot of
was
errors. Their forwards got on the back foot. I think they got a bit lazy, to be honest. And Junior Paulo really ramped up at the back end of the game and started to make a dent through the middle of the field. But yeah, Dylan Brown for mine really jumped on the back of everything. He was on both sides of the field. He was really just more so positioning. He didn't finish it, but he started it. If you know what I mean. Like he was drawing defenders,
yeah.
putting Iongi and back rowers into positions to capitalise.
And
So
digging into the line was the try off. Was it the try of the ball for Yongi to throw a ball where he dug in the line and threw like the falling offload?
for Iongi,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. And took a couple
absolutely.
with him. He did a couple of times.
He had a great game, Katongi. He
Yeah.
was fantastic. He looks like a real good, real good player. Footwork and power in tackles. So he's dragging people around. But yeah, opened up the edges on multiple occasions with the Yongi to get him back into the game. But Gutho was just as impressive. Like the amount of times he was just opening up the defense on the back of his either his ball playing to an edge or doing it on his own, stepping back through the middle. It was awesome.
I'm just quickly looking at the play-by-play. Look at this. So 20 minutes to go. Error Damien Cook. A minute later, error Val Holmes. 7 seconds later, inside the 10, Damien Cook. 3 minutes later, Val Holmes error. Next minute, Christian Tuipulotu error. Uh,
Yeah, wow.
Line break. Then we go 5 minutes more. Error Tyrell Sloan. Penalty dangerous tackle to Bellin. On report to Bellin. Uh, Misfield goal Val Holmes. Error Lockie Ilias. That was in the how many was that? Seven in the last and all back to back to back in the last in 20 minutes or so. Yeah.
And there was about 10 to go where Parramatta kicked it out on the full, wasn't it? And the
Yeah.
Dragons took the lead with a penalty, so it was
Drop it, yeah.
22-20 with like 10 minutes to go, and then they, as you said, give away error after penalty after like, and obviously the big one was the crusher penalty from Jack de Belin with 2 minutes to go, get them back level. I expected Holmes to kick that first field goal attempt and the game to be over. And then I expected the same from Lomax. And both of them missed it in normal time. But Parramatta just worked down the field and took that first opportunity in Golden Point. And that is the one problem with Golden Point. Like if you get the team, like, you have all you need is one player to break a tackle and make 15 or 20 meters, and the game's probably over.
Yeah. I've said it for years. A draw is perfectly sufficient.
Take a draw, man. Yeah, fuck. I said it when it started, but yeah,
Yeah.
and so did you. We both agreed that what's wrong with 1 point and move on and
Yeah.
fucking start again. Like, I get it in finals and all the rest of it. But
Yeah. Yeah. I understand that. But I don't know. I feel like at times there's an obsession with trying to be American sport, some of what they do, but
yeah.
it's
I
not.
gave Gutherson the 3 points. I thought he probably had the biggest impact on the game. Iongi 2, and then Dylan Brown the 1.
Yep. I agree. Gutho's probably flying in the old dag games at the moment.
Mm.
Uh, Again, like Dragons now 1-5, 1-4,
Yep.
uh, and they had a bye, didn't they? So 1-3. Um,
They're probably going to play a few teams that are going to beat them up over the next 6 or 8
this is the
weeks.
thing. When you are at that level, you can't drop those games you need to win because now you're going to get towed a couple of times, and then the season's
And
up.
even if you don't, even if you just get physically dominated, that probably means the next week or two after that, you're probably going to lose games that you shouldn't.
Yeah,
So
exactly right. So they've probably, I hate to say it, they've missed their shot for the season.
got themselves in the foot.
But maybe every team has because I keep saying that a lot at the moment.
Most teams have, yeah.
So someone has to not have fired all their shots just yet. 5:30 Saturday, we saw the Dolphins get on the board 36-10 in a fairly dominant display against the Titans. And admittedly, I didn't get to see all of this game in live action, but it seemed like the Dolphins actually decided they're going to engage the line and have some of their outside backs actually dig in and have a crack. And as a result, probably played the sort of footy we saw from last year when Nicarima and Co were at their best barn. Did I imagine that, or what do you make of it?
No, this is they've been building to it for the last couple of weeks. I actually thought they were half a chance the week before and against South Sydney, and then just sort of they lost half an hour of that game, and South came back and got them. But um, I think this is the real Titans, to be honest. I think this is what you're going to see from them. You're going to see games where they look. They're always going to be good in the middle of the field, but there's going to be games where they look really solid out in their outside backs, and there's going to be games where they just get torn apart. And Herbie was just breaking tackles for fun out there against these guys. He got Asako got on the back of it. Hammer decided to get involved, which is probably what I think you're alluding to, coming back through
Oh,
the
and a
middle of
bit
the
of,
field.
and Nicarima as well. They both sort of
Hmm.
started, getting in and popping. Well, both helped each other in terms of Hammer comes into those games when they actually get a bit of broken field and second phase stuff.
And Katoa's been fantastic all year and was fantastic again in this game, but he had some people going with him. Yeah, it, um, they really carved up the edges of the Titans. Like to get a bloke sent off a minute and a half after this for 10 minutes, a minute and a half into the game, and this was probably the most. This was probably the biggest one of the weekend, to be honest. Like it was a fair call. He just got loose and stood too tall and didn't bend his back and hit him pretty square across the face
Yeah,
and copped 10 minutes for it. And the Titans really struggled without him on the field. Like I know their forward pack's pretty good, but without him on the field, they look like a completely different pack. I don't know. Oh, I know what it is. It's we're going to follow this guy because he's one of the best players in the comp, and if he's not on there, we're all going to get a bit sad and fucking we're going to miss our tackles and we're just hoping that he comes back. But yeah, they wouldn't want to lose Tino for a big stretch because it'll absolutely kill them. But the Dolphins were just stronger for longer. Like they just put in effort for much longer than the Titans did in this game. Like the Titans put in spurts of 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, but they were not consistently knocking through the front door like the Dolphins were. And that came off the back of Max Plath, Saifidi. They really laid a platform through the middle of the field. Um, and they caused heaps of problems there for the Titans, who just seemed to be on the back foot for the majority of the night, just trying to catch up with the Dolphins that were on the front foot and pushing through the middle. Um, Isako's a sneaky good player, man. Like you give that bloke half an opportunity. He's big, he's strong, he's probably one of the fastest going around, especially the acceleration over the first 10 meters or so. You give him half a chance to get on your outside, and you're probably not going to stop him. And even if you get close to him, he's big enough to just push you out of the way and keep going. Throw in his 80% kicker, like he could be a superstar if you put him in a different system. Like he's pretty fucking good in this one, which is not the best system in the world at the moment. But big raps on him out of the back off the back of this game. I thought Jeremy Marshall King had a much bigger impact than he has done recently. He really got the forwards on the front foot. He was linking up with the halves. Nice flat, fast, short passing to get it out to the edges. They condense their passes a little bit as well. Like I mentioned earlier, the Sharks are playing deep and they're playing long balls and it's slow, which is what the Dolphins have been doing too. But in this game, they really shortened up their passes. They got the players next to each other, hitting the flat lines, and it just causes chaos for the defense when you've got two and three angles of attack coming at you at the same time, which is this is what I was saying about the Sharks 2 years ago. That's what I loved about the way they were playing the footy. They would bring 3 and 4 players onto the ball, offering different angles, different things, and that's when Nico got his Dally M. And they haven't done it since, and that's what you see the good teams do. They bring players onto the ball with the player on the hip, player on the outside. You've got the inside ball, the outside ball, the grubber. You've got a cutout opportunity, and it just draws all those defenders in. As I mentioned earlier with Cleary, that's the way footy has to be played these days, and that's what the Dolphins did at different points in this game, and they really just carved the Titans up for a good half an hour and just put points on at will.
Any standouts for the Titans? Having you said all that, or they were just
Um,
ground in the ground into the dust by work by the end of it.
they pretty much were. AJ had a couple of individual efforts where one of them was a grubber and an individual try that he was able to get off the back of that. Um,
He's funny.
ran
I think he's probably scored 6 tries already this season. But at the end of the year, if you go back and watch AJ, like there's going to be a fantastic AJ Brimson highlight reel at the end of the year where he probably is going to score 21 tries, and a lot like this with the grub or with a chip or an intercept or something. But over the other 70 minutes of the game, he doesn't contribute as a five
I was
eight.
going to say I could guarantee you I could put a package together that was 10 times longer of him throwing passes that hit the
Well,
ground
yeah, that's
or
right. Like,
fucking
yeah,
him running around in circles or missing tackles or fucking
yeah.
at his best he's brilliant, but
I think he needs to go back to fullback. But
his
anyway,
best comes at 5 or 10% of the time he's on the field. Randall was very good. He's just a worker. He's just a guy that gets through his work, does all the rest of that stuff. Feeder was probably one of his better games to start this year. I'm not sure. I don't know why they're not starting for Feeder.
at this stage,
I know they're looking for an impact, but you can get 60 minutes out of that bloke and rely on someone else for impact.
especially because we know you can. We've seen it for 6 or 7 years now.
That's
Uh,
right.
I don't know why suddenly
Especially imagine AJ or Preston going into the line on the left, right?
I played
Then
60.
you've got Fafita on the short ball and you've got Sami on the out ball.
Yeah,
Like defenses are just gonna fucking shit themselves.
yeah.
But 20 minutes into the game, it hasn't happened yet. So you're already 20 minutes behind the eight ball. Like it just doesn't make sense. They really need to get him back on starting. I don't know if it's something if he's off with Des or he's not fit enough or whatever. I'm sure there's a reason for it, but I don't think it's good enough. Tino was their best player, even though he spent 10 minutes in the bin.
Yeah.
Hammer and Jeremy King were good. I thought Herbie and Asako were very good, but yeah, Katoa, Plath, and Saifidi were fantastic. They were the three best players on the field.
How far off's Max Plath from Origin?
I'd,
Dare I say
I'd,
it?
I'd be picking him.
Yeah,
He's a perfect 14.
yeah,
You know, he can play 9, he can play 13, he can play an edge. At a pinch, you could put him in the front row. At
yeah.
a pinch, you could probably even put him out in the centres.
He's not going to miss tackles. He's not going to let anyone
You
down.
can play anywhere in the pack, and yeah, at a pinch, you could probably play centre.
Proper game. Which order are you putting him for your 3-2-1?
I don't. I tossed up between Saifidi and Katoa, but I gave Katoa the 3, just probably more so on the work of what he's done when they've been getting beaten. He's always there. He's the creator. He's the only real massive creative spark in this thing. And even when 2 of the try assists get given to Nicarima, they were probably off the back of Katoa getting him in the right spot to do it. So Katoa 3, Saifidi 2, Plath 1.
Beautiful. 7:30. We saw the Broncos put the Tigers to bed in the space of about 20 minutes, 46-24. After an enthralling first half, at least as a Tigers fan, but I've seen this movie before, Barn.
How enthralled were you?
At halftime, I wasn't by halftime, but for about
I
20
was going to say, the half time probably gave you a kick in the guts.
20, no, I knew, I said I've seen this movie before, and when you can't go up in fours against good teams either.
No, that's true.
So when you're behind the 8 ball, I thought Tigers looked brilliant for.
Dewey, yeah, kicking. Oh,
No,
no, Dewey wasn't in the side.
no, he was, but he kicked one and kicked the only goal. No, he
Yeah,
missed it.
okay.
But it was Appy, then De Silva, then Dewey had
Yeah, that's right.
a. But they played up tempo footy. I thought
This
that.
was another game that, like, both teams just came out of the blocks and were just charging at each other. Like, the first 10 minutes was probably the best part of the game. They were just absolutely tearing into each other. But the Broncos were able to offer. create opportunities, especially down that left. I don't know what Shibasaki's been. I don't know if he what vitamins that bloke's been taking, but give me his regiment because he's turned from a reserve grader to one of one of the best centers running around at the moment. I know it probably helps that he's got Ben Hunt there and Reynolds feeding him the ball, but looking he was able to open him up a couple of times down that left hand edge. Hunt looked like he was in for probably the best game of his life in the first 10 or 15 minutes with setting up plays and getting guys down edges and grubbers and then just disappeared out of the game as he's done quite a bit this year. But yeah, he's breaking tackles and getting down that left hand edge. Probably Toa probably shut him down to be honest. I thought Toa had a fantastic game. He's been one of your best this year, Stafford Toa. I know he's only played the 2 games, but those 2 games he's played have been brilliant. Payne Haas had a weird game.
Well, I thought Tigers controlled him pretty well. I thought
They pressured
that
him,
they
yeah, and
just shut him
into
down.
errors as well.
Yeah. They did a good enough job in stopping him, but it doesn't help when the bloke on the other side of the scrums, you know,
Yeah,
arguably the second best prop in the game.
Carrigan just took up the slack and just
Yeah.
started bashing people. And the Broncos were all over the top at the start and probably should have been further in front than they did. But the Tigers got a bit of field position, and Galvin, he's one of the best creative players in the game.
It's funny you mention it. And this might sound weird, but my young fella, he's only playing under nines, but he's first receiver for the year, and the coach kept telling him watch footy, whatever. If I was going to tell someone at that age, or say around 10 years old, to watch a first receiver, it'd be Lachlan Galvin. Not so much Cleary because he's just looking for the ball. Every time something's happening, he's looking for the ball. He's in and about. And I'm not saying Galvin's a better player than any
No,
other halves, but he's
yeah.
someone you can then mold to where you need him to be down the road. And I think Galvin's still on that road, but just the way he's in and about, the way he has the balls to grab it behind the line on the first. He's got as good a pass as cutout passes any of the Yongis or anyone
And
was.
he wants you to hit him too. When like you see a lot of blokes draw the defense, and as soon as they start moving towards him, they shift the ball. He holds it for that little bit longer and
Yeah,
goes, "Fucking hit me,
yeah,
hit me." That bloke's just scored over there.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, you hurt me, but we've just put 6 points on.
yeah.
Fuck
He's
you.
just so exciting in some of his games. The first that sort of 20 minutes from after that initial Broncos salvo, I thought Tigers looked fantastic. Buller is getting football under his belt. Burnt off one of the centers off the drop out to set up a try. They just look great. But then when it was only 12-0, you knew it was going to happen. You knew without fail Tigers were going to let a try in 5 minutes before halftime. They did. And then they kicked a 40-meter field goal. They go into halftime behind. And to be honest, that was probably the game. I think they fired all their shots by then. They still weren't too far out of it, but I think was it? Then 4 tries in the space of 15 minutes after halftime. Just that was the end of the game. A couple of the groundings were interesting. I'm not saying there's any difference in results, but there's a few goat groundings along the way that might have been given different nights. But clearly better team Brisbane. But Tigers aren't too far off, and I've said it. The football they've played the last few weeks, they will beat some of these teams they should beat some of the teams that we've been saying are in and about. We don't quite know where they're at, but
Callum was a little bit disappointing in this one. I thought when like Appy went off, you just completely lost your way in this one, which hasn't happened
mm.
earlier in the year.
And he must have been gassed because he went off a bit earlier than
I
I
think he
expected.
copped the knock, to be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah,
But the cutout ball from Appy to is it Leia Luai out
yeah.
in on the edge there, the youngest player in the NRL. He looks like he could be something.
Well,
Physical enough and
another day he might have had
good
3 tries in
finish.
that first half. He had
Yeah,
one bounce went wrong and he fumbled another one, or
yeah.
was Bowen in touch on another one.
Hunt dropped the ball over the line as well, which could have been, another try to Brisbane. But the big turning point was Willison with his 2 tries there, and they were pretty simple. Just the fact that he's 7.5 foot and got the the arm reach of fucking Inspector Gadget,
It
be able to
literally
put the
was.
ball over the
They
line.
literally were Inspector Gadget tries.
Yeah, just standing up and just reaches out
Yeah,
6 foot in front of him and puts the ball down. Um, but fuck, he looks fit. It's
I was
the
going to say
fittest I've ever seen
him
that
and
bloke.
Piakura just look like Madge has whipped him into
Yeah,
into
but
shape.
Piacora's a head job.
Oh yeah, still a pellet. I didn't say he wasn't, but if they
He's
get
been sent off 3 times, I'm pretty sure, this year in 6 rounds of footy.
yes, yes, I think maybe
At
twice.
least twice, minimum
Yeah,
twice, but I
but
think it's 3 times.
Willison,
But
we've been waiting for something to happen for 3 years, and now
mm,
he's fit. And if he starts getting a good half hour into him, maybe even more, he's a scary player.
he looks like a centre.
Yeah,
Look, he's dropped 15 kilos in the off season.
I think so.
Wilson, he was much bigger
Isn't it
last
amazing
year.
what a difference
But
a coach makes?
and he looked the threat every time he touched the ball. Wilson, I thought he was fantastic in this game. Both teams made breaks and caused problems in the field, and that's the one thing you can take from the Tigers. Even though it was a pretty comprehensive loss at the end of the game, they were still threatening the defensive line. They were still opening it up at
Mm.
times. The execution wasn't brilliant, and they didn't finish it off. But and the fact that they let in a couple of, you can say softish tries, but they were probably on the back of really just sort of getting beaten up for a 5 minute period, and then he reaches out and scores a try. But yeah, it's those those two halves, like the chip and chase from Reynolds, which now they've come out and said it was a plan. I don't think it was a plan. I think
No,
it just happened at the spur at the moment. But
you know,
like the Ben Hunt and Adam Reynolds should just have like I don't know, what is it, Nurofen, the anti-inflammatory fucking symbols tattooed across their back, the walking advertisements for anti-inflammatories. But they had a massive impact in that fight. There was that 10-minute period where you had the 40-20, you had the Willison barge over, then the A-Ray chip and chase, and they put the game to bed. Like, they really made a massive difference. And then
especially when
poor old,
the other, and this isn't going into it, the other team had two 19-year-old halves, and
yeah, and one of them got knocked into another fucking dimension.
yeah,
The That's one of the worst knockouts I think I've ever seen.
yeah,
Like, he was, the minute he got collected and he was up and he was still trying to convince the trainer that no, I'm all good. Like, he was just in a parallel universe. He was completely belted beyond belief. But yeah, and then 6 minutes into the second half, it's 26-16 and they go on with it. Latu gets knocked out. Um, they lose their seven. Sione Fainu had a really good game. I thought
absolutely,
he was fantastic.
yeah.
Beat Willison and old mate Jetski, who was an absolute passenger in this game.
It's funny, he's in
Um,
super coach, and like I want to sell him this week just out of disgust at looking at him, but he's got to break even at 16, so it's like, oh,
Ridiculous, man. Like,
I don't
he's,
think I've seen a first grade player be speed bumped every week for 6 weeks and still get a starting spot.
yeah, well, it's because he scored 4 or 5 tries,
Yeah,
but it's been on the back of a
of running off
grubber or
Ben
a
Hunt's been,
short pass.
yeah,
And but yeah, he was deplorable in this game. It got into the back and forth for a while, but both teams dropping balls. There's another turning point I thought with is it the Tamurel May try that got taken away from the
yeah,
Tigers with
uh,
Pole as a what do they call it, a fucking driver,
yeah.
came in and pushed the arm, and he probably scores anyway, but Pole went and got involved and had a moment he would have liked to take back. But yeah, I thought Taruva was good again for you guys and is definitely an advantage going forward. Twal again, just like, he doesn't fuck up. He just doesn't make mistakes. I don't think he's missed a tackle. I think it's like
Uh,
6 rounds in and he hasn't missed a tackle.
and he's starting to just
Like,
play a bit more link work as well. He's starting to just
mm-hmm,
either he's throwing an offload, which sometimes he doesn't always do or hasn't in the past, but also
mm-hmm.
just linking up and just spreading the ball a bit better than he has. He's just playing really good footy, to be honest.
Sione Fainu was very good. May and Galvin were great, as was Stafford Toa. Cobbo had a much better game. Yeah, had a lot more impact, got involved a lot more, as did Haas. Reynolds, you're probably lucky Reynolds didn't stay on the field for the entire game, to be honest, because he would have created a lot more other stuff. But Carrigan and Wilson were the two best players on the field,
Yeah, agree.
followed by Terrell May.
Yeah, let's go in that order because I didn't have much more to add. The scary thing is we've seen it for years where the Tigers have a good 3 weeks, they lose a game they should have won, get towed by a good team, and then that's the end of the
Fall
season.
apart. Yeah.
So this is a big week for the Tigers, I think, and that's
They're
my
a different team. They're a different team.
team.
I wouldn't be getting too worried.
And if they could kick, they probably they do score 30 against Brisbane, who not many teams will do this year, I don't think. And compare it in comparison to some of these teams we're talking about, they're playing footy, they're throwing a ball around, they're willing to explore, and I think it puts them in good step as we go along.
I just want to. I know Luo wasn't there this week, but he's taken a back seat every game he's played this year. I want to see him try to take a game by the scruff of the neck.
Mm,
That's
agree.
what Tigers do that, then yeah, they're a definite top 8 chance.
I agree with that. And really, this should be the round, I would think, but we'll get to that. 48-24, Storm over the Seagulls. And this was a bit similar where there was just two sort of passages of 10 minutes where um, Melbourne put on 30 points. And that was the game. What did you make of it?
It was like 10 minutes. They scored 3 tries in 5 minutes, and then in the second half they scored 3 tries in 5
Yeah.
minutes. And just fucking absolutely blew Manly off the field. They were Manly probably did well not to fucking concede more points, to be honest. But the first 20 minutes, Melbourne just owned the game. Apart from the one raid early that got the scoring started with an offside penalty. And Garrick, they took the 2 again. I really don't like teams taking the 2 with the score at 0-0. Doesn't make any sense for mine. I know Bennett's done it for years and they've always given him kudos for it and all the rest. That doesn't make sense for mine. Have a crack at the 6 and fucking come what may. But
Instead of fault, especially right in front of the
yeah,
team do it because everyone else does.
early in the game, you got all your energy. Fucking have a crack at scoring a try.
Yeah.
Go back and have 2 and then hope that someone doesn't drop it for the next 2 sets. That's basically what it is. But anyway,
especially those ones where it's sort of in like the 12th or 15th minute and the defending team's probably like, thank fuck we can reset and
yeah,
kick the ball up the other end of the field.
All it takes is one person to drop the ball and the
Yeah.
fucking whole momentum shifts. But
Exactly. Anyway, carry on.
Hughes was the difference in this game. Jerome Hughes added a whole different complexion to this Melbourne team that we haven't seen. He got fucking Munster involved. He got the outside backs involved. Even Harry was having a crack in attack because he knew that if he had to turn around and pass it to someone, Hughes was there and he could just kick it and fucking sort it out later. Like it really involved the entire spine when Hughes is there. You saw that the difference was night and day from the week before when Hughes wasn't there. Yeah, well, Munster with a short ball to Stefano to start it off, and Stefano's really starting to get into his work. I think you're going to see probably a 6-week stretch over the next out of the next 8 weeks. I think you're going to see 5 or 6 really good games out of Stefano. He just seems like he's super fit. He's aggressive, and he's getting where he needs to be. I mentioned how much more organised they are with Hughes there. It allowed them to just constantly fire attacks on both sides of the field, whether it was coming out of dummy half, out of Munster, out of him. They just knew that there was going to be an attacking raid. They just had to make sure that the pass was good. And then there was going to be an opportunity on both sides. Fast and physical. Manly got some possession. Cooler looked fucking fantastic in this game.
Cooler was Manly's best by a long way, I thought. Well,
Olakawati was up there as well, but it took him a little bit longer to get into the game. But yeah, Cooler was just pushing guys off, beating them with footwork, beating them with speed on the edges, like caused so many problems. Who'd they have playing fullback? Hopewadi played fullback, eh?
Yeah.
Cooler's got to go back there.
Well, he could have scored even because before he scored, he could have scored sort of 3 tries in the space of 5 minutes there, and he did get one, but he was was he against Leo? He was against a debutant, wasn't he? But he gave him 9.
Yeah, he was. I think Hopewade has to come back onto an edge, and then you can have Garrick in the centres, and who's the other winger? You got Saab.
But whoever it might be. Or Lolo was there this week, but uh,
Oh, they'll be bringing back
Ray Vega or
no, the
the
bloke,
other guy.
the other one that's been out injured.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think I think they've a much more dangerous proposition with Cooler at fullback than they are with Hopewade. Hopewade is just that little bit more up and down. Got more pace, more footwork out of Cooler at fullback, but that's something that they can work with later on. Um, yeah, Cooler and Olakwadu was causing problems for Melbourne's defence, and they opened him up a couple of times, but Hughes, for mine, just caused so many problems for Manly. They could not control him at all, whether it was passing or running, or like it just broke him open constantly. Anderson with a hat trick that was gifted to him, like
yeah.
he just had to catch it and put it. There was one try where he had to do a bit of work, but the other two he just had to catch the fucking thing and put it down. But yeah, there was 2 5-minute stints where they scored 6 converted tries. Like you put on 36 points in 10 minutes.
Which is what Melbourne for years have done better than anyone else. They
Just
just get you.
completely blew Manly off the field. It was 42-10 with 20 minutes to go.
Yeah,
Probably should have been 60-10 by the end of the
and it
game,
may
but
and Pappy only played half a game if he stays on.
yeah, he went off for the last 20 with
Yeah,
ice on
yeah,
on
but
on the hammy. But
spent he spent that second half sort of just limping around as well. So
there was a Olakawadu breaking down that right edge. He dead set looked like a centre. The way that he charged onto that ball, ran down the edge, just pushing people off and offloaded to Saab with the Gidley flick to put him away there. That was one of the highlights of in this game. But yeah, um, that was basically it. Manly were probably flattered. I thought Melbourne
I
probably
agree.
could have put them
But
away
the,
further than they did. But
being such a long way off the pace, Manly, I think there's too much shit going on at that club too.
now there is absolutely
I
there
think
is.
this is now just and I'm not. I am saying this after the fact, but they're gonna. I reckon there's that much shit going on there that they'll struggle to get their season back on track at all now.
Well, they had everybody up and going, what, 2 weeks ago? Like,
Yeah,
just about every player was having a real red hot crack, and there was a few in this game that weren't. So
no, and no Tommy, and Tommy's going to now be on a one leg for he's out for 6 weeks, isn't he? But even
I
when he's
think Tommy might
enough
be done,
speed,
unfortunately. I hate to say it because he's a brilliant player and I love watching him play football, but it's
uh,
like 3 or 4 serious injuries in the last 3 or 4 years. Like,
we can't solve all Manly's problems here, nor any club's problems in the space of half an hour or anything. But
mm,
the conversation around return on investment on him now needs to be had. I would suggest, like,
yeah,
what
yeah,
is he
100%.
getting out of that? Well, and then once you take DC and Turbo out of this team, man, it's empty looking.
I
Well,
don't think they'll get rid of him, but
no, not by any means.
they'll
But the
be
conversation needs,
his next contract will be 650. It won't be a million.
and if him and his brother are happy to stay for that, who are we to begrudge him that? Like, but like even Ben Turbo, what is he? He's not quite big enough to be a devastating back rower,
No.
not quite a center, but he's playing, every week. When you actually strip back the team, once the stars are out of it, I don't know. They they become very, very flimsy very quick, I think.
We've said it for a couple of years. Like they've got $3.5 million wrapped up in 4 players. Like it just really hurts any development that you can put into a side, unless you're absolutely just going back to juniors. Unless you just flood your team with juniors and hope for the best. But
Yeah. And God bless him, like Jake will probably work at Manly till he's 75.
100% he
We
will.
have,
He'll die on
he'll
fucking
run
at the
water,
club,
do whatever he
running
can
water.
do.
Yeah.
But he's now chewing up a bit. He doesn't miss tackles, he doesn't do much wrong, but he's not going to win you a comp now. Like this team isn't going to win you a comp now. So good luck to with the rebuild.
They'll blow someone away in the next couple of weeks, and we'll be going, oh
Probably,
fuck, they
probably,
go all right.
yeah, I know.
Um,
Yeah, they did play Melbourne, so whatever.
Jerome Hughes, Anderson, and then I either had Stefano or Katoa for the one.
20, yeah, 22 go Stefan. 20 to nil. Bulldogs over Newcastle, 2-0 half time. This had the feeling like, even though it was 2-0, to me, you knew Newcastle were fucked coming out in that second half. I just thought they'd tackle themselves to a standstill at times there. That said, they fired a couple of shots, and Bulldogs scramble defence, so we've said it for all year, is the best in the comp.
Yeah, pretty close to it. Um, there's a little bit of a concern for the Dogs, to be honest, that they should have been up by 20
Mm.
at halftime. Like the amount of opportunities, and I know the Knights' scramble defense was pretty good as well, but they were just going way too side to side, and they fixed that up in the second half, which obviously led to the 20-0. But that comes back to like, why wasn't that message sent down after 15 or 20 minutes, or why didn't the halfback Jerry on his own that
Yeah.
we're just getting pushed over the edge, we're passing too early, we like they haven't lost the game, so it's pretty hard to be critical of them, to be honest. But I just thought they didn't learn their lessons quick enough. This should have been probably a 40 to 6,
Mm.
40 to 10 game.
Yeah.
They should have really been able to exercise what they were doing, because they were creating opportunities, but it was not done quick enough. And then, guys were getting pushed out, and they were having 3 and 4 defensive players in that position. But if they were thinking about what they were doing, the ball would have been dropped back inside, or it would have been, the ball would have been spun a lot quicker to the edges than what it was. But they're doing their job. They're absolutely killing teams with their scramble defense, and they get away with the lack of the size in the forward pack off the boot.
Yeah.
Again, Sexton with fucking however many hundreds of meters of kicking down the field. Like they get an extra set of 6 or 2 every game just off the back of the boot of Sexton, and throw Burton back in there. There's probably another 2 sets of 6 that they just get gifted to them off the back of a long boot,
Yeah. Yeah.
which
And then,
nobody else has.
Reed's always good for a 40-20 when no
Kick
one's
one
looking
again
to.
in this one. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
Um,
it's a good problem to have to only win 20-0 by. Wish my team would
but,
do.
but yeah, as you mentioned, the scramble defense is as good as anyone. You can beat the first up tackle, but there's going to be another 3 Bulldogs jerseys chasing you. Um, what happened? Frizzell stripped at the start of the game, 3 minutes in, and it was 2-0, and that just kept going.
Yeah.
Newcastle,
We've got to mention as well, Newcastle lost 2 blokes in the first minute.
I was just about to say, they were down to a 15-minute
Yeah.
rotation after 15 minutes. As we said about the Souths and the Roosters, this is probably what should have happened in that game. It should have been, 20-0 in that one. But yeah, down to a 15-man rotation. But the Dogs were still winning the tempo. Like they were still playing faster football, and they were more physical. But yeah, they just need one guy. Like I know Saluka Fafita can do it occasionally, and Max King's just busting his ass to get through the middle of the field. I'd love to see them just have one Mark O'Mealy, or you want to go back to Dogs that could do it, Mark O'Mealy, or fucking
Steve Price or
Steve Price, fucking what's the big fucking fella's name? Um,
uh,
anyway,
carry on. I think of it.
second row, fucking big
Oh,
square head,
Cassiano.
yeah,
Yeah.
someone like that, just to break down that front door and add an extra 100 meters to this pack would be fucking absolutely tremendous. But it's just not happening. But they get away. Their effort, tackle after tackle, set after set, just pushes teams to the point where they can't do anything else. And Newcastle were completely screwed because they just had to run around with their ass hanging out to stop the Dogs scoring tries.
Yeah.
Would they save 3 or 4 tries in the first half? Like, and if they didn't put that effort in, it would have been 20-0 at halftime, and then anything afterwards. But yeah, it gets back into the second half, and they couldn't do anything.
Dumbass said Sin Bin broke their back. And that's what I thought. They tackled their ass off for it, but
That was a weird one too, because it wasn't really a trip, but he did fucking throw his hip into the bloke, and
yeah, that was the game. 5 minutes later, it's 12-0, and that was the tank was already empty.
it's a bit of a suspect put down for the first try with Curran. They got a bit lucky with the ball just like bouncing off Kiraz's face and going backwards. Like, oh no, it didn't hit his arm. What did it hit? Oh, it hit his nose. It's gone backwards. And then Curran fucking sort of fumbled it as he put it down, but they scored there. And then, yeah, as you said, the trip just, they copped 10 minutes. And then there was just like Preston just charged through the middle of the field. And then off the back of that, he's just brushing off players. And then Jack Todd, that line that he ran was like Nakora a couple of weeks ago.
Mm.
That angled line straight back into the back of the ruck and just busted over guys and scored that try. And the game was done then. I just want to see the Dogs put someone to the sword. Like, I know they haven't lost a game and they're just outworking teams and doing all that kind of stuff. But I just want to
Is
see
starting to
them
get to
put
the
somebody
feeling
away.
of, they're 5-0, but they could also gas out and be out in straight sets in the final.
Yeah, like if they get up against
They're fitted. Like,
Melbourne and
it's
Melbourne are
very
up and
hard to
going and
maintain.
scoring points.
They're the most intense team in the comp. That's very hard to maintain for 27 rounds, is what I'm saying.
No, 100%. Like, you look back over the last, what, say 4 years, right? You get the Cowboys on a heater, Sharks, Penrith, Melbourne, just scoring points. Can they go with them? Can they get to 30 points and win that game?
That's right. Not sure. Not
Not
sure.
yet. Yeah, but
Not without the other guns. Not without Kickow and co.
they'll be back in a couple of weeks.
But I
That'll
agree.
be exciting, actually. Kick out and Burton coming back into this squad.
That's where
That's
I'd want to.
exciting.
Yeah. Um. Anything else to add?
Nah, I thought Max King was the best player on the field. Just absolutely dominating through the middle of the field, which is what they don't have and what they need. And he was the one out man doing it on his own. Oh, Curran went in and did a whole heap of work as well, but I thought Max King was the best. I gave Reed Marnie the 2 points, and then I either had Sexton, Preston, or Elliott from Newcastle for the one.
Give it to. Let me see this. Give it to Preston. Just looking at me. Yeah, give it to Preston. That's fine. Have you got a slap from the week?
Oh, the Sharks attack. Slow. It's discombobulated. Kennedy's getting on the back of slow passes and making it even slower. Like, they just really need to find a way to score points. And they haven't had an issue of doing it for 3 years, but now, like, they could have won just about every game this year if they were able to score points, but they haven't been able to do it. So
Fair enough. I'm going to slap. Now I'm going to slap everyone who wanted to whinge about Latrell's pass being forward. There you go. Just enjoy the moment. Move on.
very cool.
There's
Yeah.
been much, I'm the first to scream if something's forward. That's fine. What else do we do here? Salute. I'm going to
Salute.
do salute. Who are you going to salute? Let me think about this again.
I've got the two fullbacks from the Dragons Parramatta game. Gutherson, 2 tries, 1 try assist, 19 runs for 157 metres, 7 tackle busts, 4 line breaks, 2 line break assists, 8 tackles, no misses, 1 error. Iongi, 1 try, 1 try assist, 23 runs for 222 metres, 6 tackle busts, 1 line break, 2 line break assists, 1 offload, 3 tackles, 2 misses, and 1 error.
Pretty good. I'm going to salute Jerome Hughes. He covered off pretty well there, but came back, straightened up Melbourne, which they sorely needed, and I thought he was outstanding. And pop plant. Oh, that's we usually do that, don't we?
We do.
I'm going to pop plant the Sharks defense in the last 30 seconds. There you go. What about
Very
yourself?
cool. Jack Jajewski,
Larry?
or Jetski, as you might like to call him. 5 missed tackles, 1 error. Like, played 52 minutes, had 5 runs of had like 9 runs of the footy in 52 minutes. Missed 5 tackles, made an error, and just did not look like he was going to make an impact on the game at all.
Let's leave it on that note. We might be renaming the pop plant by the end of the year, to be honest. Keeps getting time. I'm very tired, if you can't tell. So we're going to wrap this up. We're going to preview round 6 as well. Take care, guys, and we will talk soon.